The horrifying acts Roman soldiers committed against captured queens will make you gasp. Commander Ilara stood at the bridge of the Aurora's dawn, her eyes tracing the irregular paths of massive rocks drifting silently in space. It was quiet here, almost unnervingly so, but she liked it that way. Silence gave her mind space to think. "Commander," said Lieutenant Ron, his voice soft over the intercom. "Sensors are picking up something unusual in the central cluster." Ilara turned to face the holographic display flickering before her. The sensors highlighted a metallic structure buried deep within a cluster of asteroids. It was enormous, too large to be a natural formation. "Run a detailed scan," she ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we get too close." The scan revealed more than just a structure. It was a spacecraft, ancient and massive, with strange geometric designs etched into its hull. The metal glimmered faintly, even under the dim light of distant stars. The ship seemed almost alive. "How old is it?" asked Ensign Lyra, peering at the scan. Ron tapped the display. "Our initial estimates suggest it's older than any human-built ship by thousands of years, possibly older than any civilization we know of." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. The universe had a way of hiding surprises, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. "Prepare an exploration team," she said. "We're going in." The Aurora's dawn slowly approached the derelict vessel. Its engines hummed quietly as they navigated through a dense field of asteroids. When they finally reached the ship, the hull looked almost intact, despite centuries of drifting in space. Its surface was covered in strange symbols, patterns that seemed to move when viewed from certain angles. Ron adjusted his scanner. "It's as if the ship is aware of us," he muttered, eyes wide. Ilara frowned. "No, it's just clever design." "Let's not imagine ghosts where there are none." They docked carefully. The airlock hissed open, and a fine mist escaped into the vacuum of space. Ilara led the team inside, their boots echoing against the metal floor. The interior was vast, far larger than the exterior suggested. Light seemed to bend strangely, illuminating long corridors that twisted and stretched in impossible ways. The first room they entered was a central chamber filled with holographic projectors. As the explorers stepped closer, the projectors activated, displaying scenes that made them all pause. Holograms of cities, strange and grand, floated in the air, but it wasn't just architecture. Figures moved in the projections, tall, regal beings and others that seemed to command them. Ensign Lyra whispered, These look like rulers, queens maybe." Ilara nodded, stepping closer. "And these," she said, pointing to other projections, "are the conquerors. They're showing everything. Their history, their battles, their victories." The images shifted as if the ship sensed their curiosity. Ilara could feel it too, the sense that the vessel was alive, observing them. Yet the most surprising thing was that the projections didn't show violence in the way humans might expect. Instead, they depicted strategies, cunning plans, and careful manipulations. Entire civilizations rose and fell in the holograms, but the cruelty was implied rather than shown. Ron spoke quietly, almost in awe. "It's like a lesson or a warning." Ilara considered this. "Yes, and we need to understand it. Not just for science, but to understand what we could face in the universe. This knowledge, it could save us, or destroy us if we misuse it." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors twisted and shifted as if guiding them somewhere. Strange lights illuminated alien glyphs carved into the walls. Each symbol seemed to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. The team began to feel the weight of history pressing down on them, the centuries of silence, the stories of civilizations lost to time. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber at the heart of the ship. It was circular, with a domed ceiling high above. In the center, a massive projection appeared, a star map of the galaxy. Lines of light connected distant worlds, showing movements of fleets, colonies, and conflicts that had taken place long before humanity even existed. Alara stepped closer, fascinated. This, this is incredible. They tracked entire galaxies and they had queens, leaders of civilizations under their control. It's horrifying but also brilliant in a terrible way. Lyra frowned. Do you think any of them survived? Ron shook his head. If the records are accurate, probably not. Their queens, their civilizations were wiped out. They didn't leave much to chance. Alara's mind raced. Humanity had always prided itself on adaptability, intelligence, and empathy. Here was proof of a civilization that had used intelligence without empathy. What lessons could they learn from this? How could humans survive a universe where cunning alone could dominate? As they examined the projections, the ship reacted in unexpected ways. Panels shifted, doors opened into new chambers, and a low hum filled the air. The crew realized that the ship wasn't just a museum, it was an interactive archive. Each projection was designed to teach, to test, to observe. Alara felt a twinge of unease. It's watching us, she said, not just recording but learning. I think it wants to know what we would do if we were in their place. Ron laughed nervously. Great, so we're the guinea pigs for a dead civilization. Alara ignored the comment, moving toward a projection that showed a council of alien queens discussing diplomacy and strategy. Their faces were serene, their gestures elegant, but the hologram conveyed tension, fear, and the weight of responsibility. She realized that these beings were more than victims. They were thinkers, leaders, and visionaries. Lyra said softly, they were so human in a way. Even if they weren't human. Yes, Alara agreed. And that's why this matters. Understanding them isn't just about history. It's about understanding life, intelligence, and what it means to make choices that affect entire civilizations. Suddenly, the ship's hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor. Lights flickered and the projections shifted erratically. The crew felt a pull, not physical but mental, as if the ship was probing their thoughts, testing their reactions. Stay calm, Alara commanded, her voice steady despite the tension. We don't know what it's doing, but panicking won't help. The AI, or whatever consciousness remained in the ship, was curious about them. The projections began to pose challenges. Holograms of dilemmas appeared, decisions that tested fairness, wisdom, and creativity. The crew had to choose strategies for civilizations at risk, for queens in danger, for outcomes that could ripple across simulated galaxies. Alara realized that this was the true purpose of the ship. It wasn't just a record of history, it was a school, a test, a warning. And humanity was now part of it. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The crew worked together, arguing, debating, learning from each challenge the ship presented. And slowly, they began to notice something remarkable. The alien conquerors had been brilliant but rigid. They relied on predictable patterns, on fear and control. Humans, with their creativity, empathy, and willingness to adapt, began to navigate the projections in ways the original civilization never had. Alara smiled faintly. We're different, she said. Not better, not worse, but different. And maybe that's what makes us strong. As the crew continued exploring, they found themselves not just observers, but participants in a story that spanned galaxies and centuries. The ship hummed around them, alive, watching, testing. But humanity, for the first time, felt not like prey, but like a rising force in the galaxy. And somewhere deep inside the ancient vessel, the ghosts of conquerors and queens alike seemed to stir. Alara turned to her team, determination in her eyes. We came here to learn, and we will, but we need to be ready. Whatever else this ship holds, it won't be easy, not for any of us. The stars outside continued to shine, silent, endless. And humanity, small but unyielding, had taken its first step into a larger universe, one filled with knowledge, danger, and the unshakable belief that they could rise to meet it. That was the first thing Commander Alara realized when she woke from a short rest inside the Auroras. Dawn. The moment her eyes opened, the sensors on the bridge began to glow softly. Signals flowed across the displays like quiet rivers of light. The alien vessel was active again, not hostile, not welcoming, watching. "Ilara," Lieutenant Ron said from the navigation console. The ship adjusted its internal structure while we were gone. Corridors changed. Rooms shifted. Ilara nodded slowly. "So it adapts," she said, "like a mind." The crew gathered in silence. No one looked afraid, but the weight of the unknown pressed on them. They had stepped into something far older and far greater than any human machine, and now it seemed the ship wanted to continue its lesson. Ilara stood tall. "Prepare the exploration team. Same group as before. We go back in." No one argued. The docking bay welcomed them again, smooth and silent. As the airlock sealed behind them, the floor lights slowly brightened, forming a path forward. It was as if the ship itself was guiding their steps. "This place feels patient," Ensign Lyra whispered. Ron gave a dry smile. "That's worse than angry." They followed the glowing path into a new chamber, one they had not seen before. This room was tall and open, with curved walls covered in moving images. Not battles, not cities, faces. Hundreds of them, tall beings, short ones. Creatures of light and flesh and metal. And among them many wore symbols of leadership, crowns, markings, glowing bands. "These are the queens," Ilara said softly. As if in response, the images shifted. One figure stepped forward in the projection, a tall, elegant being with calm eyes and slow movements. The room filled with a gentle sound like distant wind. A translation formed in the air. "We were the guardians." Lyra's breath caught. "It's speaking." "No," Ilara said. "It's remembering." The projection showed the Queen's world. Wide oceans, floating cities, long halls of learning where knowledge was shared freely. The Queen did not rule through fear. She listened. She debated. She chose carefully. Then the stars darkened. Other ships appeared, not attacking but surrounding, the conquerors, the ones humanity had seen before. Cold, organized, silent. The Queen tried diplomacy. The projection did not show destruction. Instead, it showed isolation. Trade routes closed. Communications blocked. Allies turned away not by force but by careful manipulation. "They didn't break worlds," Ron said quietly. "They broke connections." The Queen's people struggled, not with hunger or fear but with confusion. Their systems failed because trust failed. And then the projection ended. The room went quiet. "That's the horror," Ilara said. "Not destruction, control without violence." The ship pulsed gently as if agreeing. The next projection began without warning. Another queen, another world. This one ruled a civilization built on logic and numbers. Every decision was calculated, every future predicted. When the conquerors arrived, they did not attack. They introduced uncertainty, random events, false data, small, harmless errors. The Queen adjusted, recalculated. But humans watching could see what the Queen could not. Her system had no room for imagination. "She can't adapt," Lyra said. "Only correct." And slowly, quietly, her perfect world collapsed, not through force, but through choices that no longer fit reality. The conquerors never touched the planet. They simply waited. The crew moved deeper into the chamber. Each projection told a different story. Queens who ruled with emotion. Queens who ruled with tradition. Queens who ruled with absolute order. Each one fell. Not because they were weak, but because they were predictable. Ilara felt something stir inside her. Humanity had never been predictable. Humans argued, changed their minds, made mistakes, broke patterns. "What if this ship isn't judging us?" Ron asked. "What if it's searching?" "For what?" Lyra asked. "For something different," Ilara said, "something it never saw before." The lights dimmed. The projections faded. A new structure rose from the floor, smooth, dark, and circular. At its center floated a glowing symbol, a test. "Of course," Ron muttered. "It's always a test." The symbol split into 3 paths of light, each forming a scene. 3 choices. The first showed a civilization facing collapse. The logical solution would save most lives but erase their culture. The second would protect culture but risk long-term failure. The third was unclear, no predictions, no clear outcome. Lyra looked at Alara. The conquerors would choose the first. Yes, Alara said, and the queens often chose the second. She stepped forward. We choose the third. The room paused, then shifted. The ship responded, not with approval or rejection, but curiosity. New variables appeared, unexpected allies, creative solutions that no simulation had predicted. The system struggled to calculate, and then something remarkable happened. The ship adapted. Hours passed. Test after test, the crew debated, argued, changed plans halfway through, failed and tried again. The ship adjusted each time. Ron noticed it first. The challenges, they're changing faster now. It's learning from us, Lyra said. Alara felt a deep sense of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Then we need to show it who we really are. In one scenario, a queen faced rebellion. Instead of suppressing it or surrendering, Alara proposed something radical. Dialogue. The system hesitated, then allowed it. The outcome was unstable but hopeful. The ship's glow softened. At the center of the chamber, a new message formed. Unexpected pattern detected. The crew exchanged glances. "That's us," Ron said. Another message followed. "Why do you choose uncertainty?" Alara stepped forward. "Because certainty can become a cage," she said aloud, unsure if the ship could hear spoken words. "Uncertainty gives us room to grow." The ship did not reply immediately. The hum deepened. Then, the Queen sought stability. They believed intelligence meant dominance. They never imagined intelligence could mean cooperation. "They lost," Ron said softly. "Didn't they?" Alara nodded. "Yes, not because someone defeated them, but because their system had no future." The ship seemed to accept this truth. Doors opened around the chamber, revealing deeper layers of the vessel. Technology beyond human understanding. Knowledge waiting, not locked away, but guarded by wisdom. The ship was not a weapon. It was a warning, and perhaps a gift. As the crew prepared to leave, Alara looked back one last time at the Chamber of Queens. Their images were still there, not defeated but remembered. "They mattered," Lyra said. "Yes," Alara replied. "And now their stories will not be forgotten." The airlock sealed behind them. Back aboard the Aurora's dawn, the stars felt different, closer, more alive. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe's long memory, and the ancient ship, now aware of something new, watched the small human vessel drift away. Waiting, learning, preparing. Commander Alara noticed it the moment the Aurora's dawn drifted a safe distance away. The sensors no longer showed passive observation. Signals now flowed outward from the alien vessel in careful, measured pulses. "It's not just watching anymore," Lieutenant Ron said. "It's engaging." Alara folded her arms and stared at the glowing image of the ship on the main screen. "It learned something from us," she replied, "and now it wants more." The crew felt it too, a strange pressure, not fear but expectation. The ship was no longer showing old memories. It was ready to test the present. Without warning, a transmission arrived. Not words, an invitation. Coordinates appeared on the display, forming a path deeper into the asteroid field. The signal was clear and steady, almost polite. Lyra tilted her head. "It wants us to follow," Ron frowned, "or it wants to see if we will." Alara smiled faintly. "That's already a test." She gave the order. "Helm, follow the coordinates, slowly." The Aurora's dawn moved forward, engines humming softly. As they approached the marked location, space itself seemed to bend. Light curved strangely and the stars shifted like reflections on water. Then the ship appeared again, different this time. Its shape had changed. "It adapted its structure," Ron said in disbelief. "Based on what it learned from us," Alara nodded. "It's trying to communicate in our language, not words, ideas." They docked once more. This time the interior felt warmer. The lighting adjusted to human vision. The corridors no longer shifted randomly. The ship was no longer a maze, it was a classroom. The crew entered a vast open space, larger than anything they had seen before. Floating platforms hovered gently, each holding a different scene. Simulations. But these were not about ancient queens or lost civilizations. They were about humans. Lyra's eyes widened. That's Earth. The projection showed humanity's early history, exploration, mistakes, conflicts, cooperation, growth, collapse, renewal. It's studying our past, Ron said. All of it. Alara stepped forward. Then it's trying to understand what makes us us. The ship activated the first challenge. A simulated human colony appeared isolated, struggling with limited resources. The system offered 3 solutions, all efficient, all logical, but none considered emotion. None considered hope. The crew studied the options. Silence filled the chamber. Alara shook her head. These aren't enough. She stepped into the simulation. What if, she said, the solution isn't a system change but a people change? The ship paused. The simulation adjusted. The crew proposed education instead of restriction, cooperation instead of control, shared responsibility rather than enforced rules. The outcome was messy, slow, uncertain, but the colony survived. The ship recorded everything. The next simulation was harder. A human alliance faced division. Trust was failing. The logical response was separation, clean, efficient. Lyra frowned. That would work, technically. But something would be lost, Alara replied. They chose dialogue again, risky negotiations, honest admission of mistakes. The system struggled to calculate the outcome because it couldn't predict forgiveness. The alliance held, not perfectly, but enough. The ship's hum changed tone, lower, thoughtful. Hours passed. Each challenge became more complex. The ship tested adaptability, ethics, creativity. Emotional intelligence. In one simulation, Alara deliberately made an imperfect choice. Ron looked at her sharply. That will reduce efficiency. Yes, Alara said, but it will increase trust. The system flagged the decision as flawed, then recalculated. Trust created resilience. Resilience improved long-term success. The ship adjusted its understanding. At the center of the chamber, symbols began to form, new ones, built from both alien logic and human unpredictability. Lyra smiled. It's learning our language. No, Alara corrected gently. It's learning our mindset. A message appeared. You do not seek dominance. The next test was unexpected. The ship simulated itself. An ancient intelligence alone in the universe, built to preserve knowledge and evaluate successors. It asked a simple question. What should be done with power? The conquerors had chosen control. The queens had chosen preservation. The system waited for the human answer. Alara did not rush. Power should be shared, she said, and questioned constantly. The simulation branched. Some paths failed, some succeeded. The ship did not reject the failures. It studied them. That more than anything seemed to surprise it. A new chamber opened. This one was different. No simulations, no tests, just a vast archive of stars, knowledge, and dormant systems. Ron's voice trembled. This is everything they knew. Alara felt the weight of it settle over her, and everything they lost. A final message appeared. The conquerors believed control created safety. This was not foreseen. The crew returned to the Aurora's dawn in silence, not out of fear, out of awe. As they undocked, the ancient ship did not retreat into darkness. Instead, it adjusted its position, protective, watchful, a guardian, not a ruler. Alara stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. We didn't pass a test, Lyra said quietly. No, Alara replied. We started a conversation. Ron nodded. And the universe is listening. Far behind them, the ancient ship recorded a final observation, not a calculation. A conclusion. Humanity was dangerous, not because it sought control, but because it could change and choose again and again. And for the first time in countless ages, the ancient intelligence prepared for a future it could not fully predict. A future shaped by humans, Across the quiet stretches of space, far beyond the asteroid field, subtle signals began to move. They were not loud or aggressive. They were careful, intelligent, and old. The ancient ship, once silent for centuries, was active again, and the galaxy noticed. Commander Alara did not know this at first. She stood on the bridge of the Aurora's dawn, watching stars drift past as the ship prepared to leave the sector. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns, Lieutenant Ron said. Not from the ancient ship, but around it. Alara turned. Define unusual, Ron paused. They look like observers. Ensign Lyra's eyes widened. Other civilizations. Yes, Ron replied. Hidden ones, careful ones, the kind that watches before it speaks. Alara felt a quiet tension settle in her chest. Humanity had not just awakened an ancient machine, they had drawn attention. Within days, the first contact arrived, not directly. A signal appeared on the edge of human detection, structured, calm, and neutral. It carried no threat, no command, only a question. Why does the Guardian listen to you? The crew gathered around the display. Lyra swallowed. They're talking about the ancient ship. Alara nodded. And they're talking to us. The response could shape humanity's place in the galaxy. Alara chose her words carefully. We did not command it, she transmitted. We listened to it, and we allowed it to listen to us. There was a long pause, then another message arrived. That was not possible before. More signals followed, different patterns, different languages. Some were curious, some cautious, some doubtful, all asked the same thing. What had changed? Alara realized the truth slowly. The ancient ship, the Guardian, had been a silent judge for ages. Many civilizations had found it, few had passed its tests, none had changed it until now. They see us as a variable, Ron said. A risk, Lyra added. Alara shook her head. No, a mirror. The Guardian shifted position, moving slightly closer to the Aurora's dawn. It did not block their path or guide them. It stood beside them, a symbol. This is deliberate, Ron said. It wants others to see. To see what? Lyra asked. That humanity is different, Alara replied, and that difference matters. Soon, a delegation arrived. Not ships in the human sense, but shimmering constructs of light and gravity. They did not dock. They hovered at a respectful distance. A shared communication space formed. Figures appeared, representatives of civilizations older than humanity, shaped by environments humans could barely imagine. No weapons, no threats, only attention. One spoke first. You failed the Guardian's tests by our measures. Alara did not argue. Yes, she said simply. Another voice followed. Yet the Guardian changed. Yes, Alara agreed. A pause. Explain. Alara took a breath. We did not try to win, she said. We did not try to prove we were superior. We accepted uncertainty. We accepted mistakes. And we chose cooperation even when it was inefficient. The beings exchanged silent signals among themselves. One responded, inefficiency is weakness. Alara smiled slightly. Sometimes, and sometimes it's the space where growth happens. The Guardian pulsed softly as if listening closely. The discussion lasted hours. The other civilizations shared their histories, not in detail but in pattern. They had built stable systems, perfect logic, balanced control, and every one of them had reached a limit. They had survived, but they had stopped growing. You're afraid, Lyra said softly, surprising even herself. The silence confirmed it. Alara nodded. We are afraid too, she said, but we let fear change us, not freeze us. The Guardian projected a shared memory, its long watch, its endless evaluations, its quiet disappointment. It had been waiting, not for perfection, for change. A question formed, this time from the Guardian itself. If you are given knowledge, what will you do? The other civilizations watched closely. Alara answered without hesitation. We will argue about it, she said. We will misuse some of it. We will fix our mistakes. And we will teach others what we learn. That answer shocked them. You admit failure before it occurs. Yes, Alara replied, Because failure is part of learning. The Guardian's light shifted brighter, steadier. The decision came quietly. The Guardian did not give weapons. It did not give control systems. It opened pathways, star maps, translation matrices, energy theories based on cooperation rather than extraction, knowledge that required collaboration to use. "This is intentional," Ron whispered. "You can't use this alone." "No," Alara said. "It forces trust." Some civilizations withdrew, unwilling to accept such uncertainty. Others stayed, watching humanity carefully, learning. As the meeting ended, one final message came from the collective. "You are unstable," Alara nodded. "Yes, you are dangerous," she nodded again. "Sometimes." A pause. "You may be necessary." The Guardian remained beside the Aurora's dawn as the others faded away. Lyra exhaled slowly. "We didn't conquer the galaxy," Alara smiled. "No, we confused it," Ron laughed. "That might be worse." Later, alone on the bridge, Alara looked at the stars. Humanity was no longer invisible, no longer insignificant. They had become a question the galaxy could not ignore. Behind them, the Guardian adjusted its long watch, not as a judge, but as a student. And far away, civilizations began to reconsider everything they believed about intelligence, power, and the future. Because humanity had arrived, not with certainty, but with possibility. Commander Alara felt it every time she stood on the bridge of the Aurora's dawn. Messages flowed in from distant systems, careful, respectful, uncertain. Humanity had become visible, and with visibility came responsibility. The Guardian remained nearby, its vast shape glowing softly against the stars. It no longer tested, it observed, learning. "Ilara," Lieutenant Ron said, breaking the quiet. "Another request for dialogue, this one from a coalition of 3 systems." Lyra leaned forward. "They want guidance." Ilara closed her eyes for a brief moment. That word still felt strange. Guidance. "We are not leaders," Ilara said calmly. "We are participants. But they see us as something more," Ron replied. "The ones who changed the Guardian." Ilara opened her eyes and looked at the stars. "Then we must be very careful." The meeting space formed again, larger than before. More civilizations appeared, some they had already encountered, others entirely new. Shapes of light, patterns of sound, complex symbols translating into meaning. The question came quickly. What is humanity's intent? Ilara stood at the center, hands relaxed at her sides. "Our intent," she said, "is not to rule, not to replace what came before. We want to learn, to share, and to grow together." A response followed. "Those words have been spoken before." "Yes," Ilara agreed, "and often broken." The honesty surprised them. Another voice emerged. "You have access to the Guardian's pathways. That makes you powerful." Ilara nodded. "It does, and that scares us." Silence followed, then curiosity. "Why?" "Because power changes people," Ilara said. "And humans know this from experience." Lyra added softly, "We've made mistakes, big ones, but we survived because we learned from them." The Guardian pulsed faintly, recording every word. The conversation shifted. Civilization spoke of stagnation, of reaching perfection too soon, of systems so stable they could not adapt. "We are not perfect," Ilara said. "We never will be, but we change." A question formed. "What do you offer the galaxy?" Ilara did not answer immediately. She looked back at humanity's history, the struggles, the arguments, the failures, the small acts of courage. "We offer participation," she said. "Not answers, not control. A shared future where no one decides alone." Some civilizations withdrew at that. Others leaned closer. The Guardian intervened, not with authority, with memory. It projected images of the queens, leaders who tried to preserve stability, of the conquerors, builders of perfect order, and finally of humanity, arguing, cooperating, failing, trying again. "Pattern identified," the Guardian transmitted. "Survival through adaptation." The room shifted. The Guardian made its choice. It opened a new network, not centered on itself, not centered on humanity, A distributed system, knowledge shared equally, requiring collaboration across cultures and species to function. No single civilization could control it. This is intentional, Ron whispered. No center of power. Alara felt a deep sense of relief. It learned the right lesson. The Guardian's final message echoed gently. No single path ensures the future. In the weeks that followed, humanity changed. Not suddenly, not perfectly, but noticeably. Scientists worked alongside alien thinkers. Artists exchanged ideas with beings who saw color as sound. Engineers learned systems based on cooperation rather than extraction. And humanity listened. For the first time, they were not trying to lead. They were trying to belong. One quiet cycle, Alara stood alone on the observation deck. The Guardian hovered nearby, its light steady and calm. "You chose well," she said softly, unsure if it could hear emotion. The Guardian responded not with words but with a gentle adjustment in its glow. Acknowledgement. Lyra joined her. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Alara smiled. "Every day. Are you afraid?" "Yes," Alara said honestly. "And hopeful," Lyra nodded. "That sounds very human." Far across the galaxy, the ripple spread. Civilizations began questioning old systems, revisiting choices made long ago, opening conversations once thought impossible. Not because humanity demanded it, but because humanity demonstrated something rare: change without conquest. The Guardian returned to its watch, not as a judge but as a record keeper of an evolving galaxy. It recorded a final note. The future is not a destination. Humanity had entered the galaxy not as conquerors, not as queens, but as collaborators, and that, she knew, would change everything. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of questions, full of promise, and for the first time humanity did not face them alone.